Hello viewers, today I'm going to present Web API project, how we can run this project. And I already developed this application in the live server. If we log in into this application, then we can have a complete dashboard. So this is a client project, and we have successfully logged into the project. And let me just log in. So this is overall the client project overview. So I'm just going to the project, how we can run the project from the code base. So we have three different projects. First one is Web API project. So this is the API project, and we are consuming API from here. And also the database connection, you have to make sure app setting.json file. Here we have three different DB, four different DB connection. So we have used convert MSSQL. So you have to make sure your server name here and properly username and password. You can use SQL Server connection without username and password. That is first one. And if you have a username and password, then you can go with the second one. And how you can get your SQL Server name? Just go to the MSSQL management tool. So just go to the SQL Server Management tool and type select double at the red server name. So if you execute this query, then you will get your server name and copy and paste. Here is your server name, and I think you know about your database name, username, and password. So first, you have to make sure the DB connection, and if DB connection okay, and you have to build and run the project. So let me just run this project from terminal, opening terminal, so that we can run two project together. Okay, got it run. So project is API project is running successfully using the port number 5028. So this port number is important. So let me just check the API project is running properly. If we go to like helper, so if we want to check the API project running properly, then we have to just localhost. Uh, the port number will be 5028. 5028. See, so API project is running properly. Here is our home controller just for test data. And so first we'll make sure API project running properly. And if we go back to our client project, so this is the data project, and this is the client project, and you have to remember the port number for API project 5028. If we go to the client project, then we have just configure web API URLs, base URLs, API base URLs. So I already configured 5028, so it is okay. And if you have different URL, you can just make sure just rename it one, and it makes sure just API URL. So you have to always pass your API project URL here. So this is the main key for passing the API project URL. Also the client base URL. So let me just run the client project now. I'm just running from the terminal. To build the client project, and hopefully it will build without any issues or error. And yes, build process is going on. Build success. Yes. So project run from the terminal is in progress. So fully it will run without any issue. So project is running successfully, and port number is 5030. I already configured client base URL 5030. If we use this URL now from the browser, I previously present the demo from the live server. Now let me just present a demo from my local host so that we can check how we can run this API project successfully. Yes, so localhost 5030 port is running properly, and just you have to make sure login. So copy and log. So from localhost, we have successfully run the project. If we go back to the code base, so two things you have to make sure, like API project base URL and the client project base URL. So this is your main key for API and the client, and second one is client URL based URL. So why client URL here? For sending email body, we have to make sure some action link. So that action link include this URL. So you have to make sure this URL properly, unless registration or forget password action link will not work properly. So if we summarize the project again, so API project have just a DB connection. In the app setting.json file, you have to make sure DB connection here, and also the identity setting here, and the JW token setting here. And from the client project, you have to make sure that is very important, the API project base URL and the client project base URL as well. So API project port number is 5028, and client project port number is 5030. You can configure port number according to your needs. And this is the overall summary how you can run this project smoothly without any issue. And we have used .NET Framework 6 7.0. You have to make sure the .NET SDK, how you can make sure the .NET SDK, you have to go to your PowerShell and .NET version. So I have installed latest SDK 8.0, and if you want to check more details, what how, like other version of .NET framework, like just type info. So you can check all install versions. So I have already installed 5, 6, 7, 8. So all install version you can check from the PowerShell. So this is the .NET 7.0 project, and the API project is separate, and the model project is separate. We have make sure the data connection here, application DB context, and the migration here, and the model full project model here. And the client project in the app setting is pretty simple. Just you have to make sure to base URL, API project, and client project base URL. And if you have a confusion like data folder in the application project, sorry, API project seed data. So required data, once you run this project, required drop down like a demo data will generate from here. And from the application settings, you have to make sure the DB connection. If we go to the program.cs file, you have to make sure all services here, especially DB connection. Here we make sure the DB connection and the identity settings and cross settings, token settings, and finally seed data. And if you are interested, and we have prepared documentation as well how you can run this project. And if we go back to the project details, so this is a complete user management project, and you can perform full CRUD operation here. And your role management is pretty dynamic. You can create a role, like we already create two different role, admin and super admin. If you go to the admin role, then you can check access role list, so all page this role can access. And during the creation of new role, you can define how many page this role can access, like from the checkbox. Also, this project have login, audit history, login history, and in the system settings, you can configure other option as well. So I'm just closing this video. So hopefully you can, once you purchase and get this source code, first you have to make sure .NET SDK, SQL Server. From the SQL Server, you have to make sure your server name, and make sure the application settings in the application settings CTP connection properly. Once API project running properly from the terminal, or you can use directly run from the play buttons. And then you have to make sure the client project, in the client project app setting.json, you have to make sure the client and API based URL, unless it will not run properly. So thank you, and hopefully see you in the next video.